mosques.
The Homeland Security Bill is ratified. After 8 years, British borders will remain closed. The deportation of illegal immigrants will continue. Good morning. Our lead story.
The world was stunned today by the death of Diego Ricardo, the youngest person on the planet. Baby Diego was stabbed outside a bar in Buenos Aires after refusing to sign an autograph.
Witnesses at the scene say that Diego spat in the face of a fan who asked for an autograph. He was killed in the ensuing brawl. The fan was later beaten to death by the angry crowd. Born in 2009, the son of Marcelo and Silvia Ricardo, a working-class couple from Mendoza, he struggled all his life with the celebrity status thrust upon him as the world's youngest person.
Diego Ricardo, the youngest person on the planet, was 18 years, 4 months, 20 days, 16 hours, and 8 minutes old.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite films of all time, Alfonso Cuaron's 2006 dystopian classic, Children of Men, and What It Means to Me. I watched this movie for the first time a few years ago, and I was instantly transfixed and transported on a level that I hadn't been before, on a level that I didn't realize movies could even do. In a way, Children of Men is the movie that really got me into films, and its theme of hope in the face of unrelenting despair and xenophobia has never felt more relevant than today. Let's take a look at that opening clip again. The first thing we see is a slew of enraptured faces, staring up at a news report of the death of Diego Ricardo, the youngest person on Earth and a symbol of hope for a generation. It's off-putting. Without prior knowledge, we wouldn't know why the youngest person on Earth means anything. Our protagonist comes in from the back. Theo doesn't care about Diego. He's become a cynic to the fervent praying the hope that some miracle will save this increasingly doomed society. Theo just wants his coffee. Then come the reveals. Diego's age, the dystopian date, and the brutally crafted environment. This sweeping vista of a grungy, dirty city affects me profoundly when I see it, because despite its many dystopian elements, it looks much like what a city would look like today, just degraded and exacerbated. In fact, the film frequently incites a deep sense of fear into myself, a fear of what our society could and might be devolving into. The camera turns back to Theo. This scene, which was shot as a oneer and handheld versus on a Steadicam, sets up the visual language for the film to come. Recently, the use of the oneer has been dissed as a needlessly showy or athletic style of filmmaking, but Children of Men uses it brilliantly in 4 separate instances because it's not designed to be flashy, but manages to ground you within the film all that much more. I feel like a passerby in this scene, staring out into the city, walking behind and by Theo, watching him drop some alcohol in his coffee, and then watching this. In my opinion, that direct connection as a result of the oneer really amplifies the emotional resonance of the film. Every single moment of sadness, of fear, of joy, just feels all the more real to me because of how grounded and connected Cuaron makes me feel. In one single explosion and the chorus of tortured screams that follow, the premise and themes of the film are set up perfectly. Theo survives precisely because of his cynicism, of his lack of belief, and it's a harrowing idea that amplifies the journey and development that the film will take within the next 2 or so hours. The first time I watched this explosion specifically had a major impact on me emotionally. I was left reeling in pure shock, suddenly completely aware of the bleakness of this dystopian world and how unprepared really I was to see this film. And while the element of shock was an instant jolt of fear within the movie, the rest of the film does not let up either, feeling at times like a near constant barrage of feelings and emotions. Perhaps the most significant of these emotions is the sense of dread and unease that permeates the film. This movie isn't a horror film, and yet the dread comes not from the plot but more from the environment and society that the film has developed. The isolationist mentality of Britain in the film is unfortunately an ideology that has gained traction in the real world as of late. It's almost eerie in a way of how well the film was able to predict events like Brexit and the nationalistic attitude of President Trump, despite it being released in 2006, over a decade before any of these things existed and came to light. Nearly everyone in the film seems to have given up, accepting that they live in a world without future. And without a future, what is the point of anything? How can you feel like anything is pretty important if everything will be over in just a century? It's bleak and it's worrying like no other movie I can remember. The world was finished before a movie stopped having children, a character remarks. And as bad news cycle after bad news cycle paints our real world in an increasingly desolate fashion, it has never struck as much of a chord emotionally as it does today. But the true emotional power of the film lies not in despair, but in the film's remarkable ability to find hope in the midst of seemingly the apocalypse. The darker it is, the easier to see the light and all that. Because Theo, our protagonist who seemed to be living just because he had nothing better to do, finds hope. And hope is a contagious thing both to the characters of the film and to us, the viewer. Hope comes in the form of a pregnancy. Hope comes in the form of a black woman, a person who has been judged and discriminated against by society. But hope works for us all. One could certainly debate whether everyone in the world of Children of Men deserves a second chance, be it the rich who live so far above the world that they block out the hopelessness, or the medical companies who have somehow managed to put a price on suicide. But the universal truth of Children of Men is that we are all still humans, and we will all continue to share that common humanity, regardless of what happens. That message resonates so much more to me, baked around the aura of hopelessness and baked around the toxicity of so much of political and social discussion today. As the world falls into disarray yet again, both because of this virus and this already somewhat decaying societies, that message and idea of shared humanity and anything could be possible is one that is unequivocally inspiring emotionally to me like nothing else. At first glance, Children of Men is a film that seems to be unequivocally clinical and cold. Yet once you dig past the surface of the action, the explosions, Cuaron's masterpiece so clearly contains a deep, beating heart. It's a heart that's filled with scenes and themes that really affect me emotionally, be it the moments of pure despair or the hope that emerges out of that. And with that, I'll leave you with one last scene, one that I hope will mean as much to you as it does to me in these trying times.
The Human Project gives this great big dinner for all the scientists and sages in the world. They're tossing around theories about the ultimate mystery. Why are women infertile? Why can't we make babies anymore? Some of them say it's genetic experiments, gamma rays, pollution, same old, same old. Anyway, in the corner, this Englishman's sitting. He hasn't said a word. He's just tucking into his dinner. So they decide to ask him. They say, well, why do you think we can't make babies anymore? And he looks up at them, and he's chewing on this great big wing. And he says, I haven't the faintest idea, he said. But this stalk is quite tasty, isn't it? Eating fucking stalk. Eating the stalk. Italia.
Voices Unbound HK is
Brenda,
student editors,
Justin,
Lucy, Blythe, Hebe,
and me, Derek. The music you are hearing was crafted and shared by graduating senior Bo Wen. This effort to send out our voices, linked to our feelings in such a disconnected time, is supported by Veronica Booth and her communications and public relations team, as well as David Loveland and his high school administrative team. We are all located here at the Hong Kong International School on the Tai Tam campus. We acknowledge Padraig Otuma and Poetry Unbound, the inspiration for this class project, and are thankful for both the creativity and extended reach of On Being Studios. Feel free to share or tag this offering, and above all else, whenever this finds you, speak well.